Hey there, my little chocolate chips. Today we're going to go over 9.1, just a really quick, very fast review. Then we're going to do homework corrections, and you will need to be correcting your homework at the same time so that you can hand in your homework corrections today at the end of the day. And then tomorrow we will start on lecturing on 9.2. And because we are done with 9.1 today, you need to hand in your lecture notes. So there are two things due today: your lecture notes at the end of the class, and also your homework corrections, also by the end of class. Alrighty, recall that we are in chapter 9, which is about chemical names and formulas. We have, in 9.1, gone over all of these forms of naming, and we will begin with these two starting tomorrow. So we're in 9.1. This is about naming two different types of ions. We have monatomic ions and polyatomic ions, and we learned how to name those two, and we also learned how to name ions metals that form more than one ion. So we have the stock system and the suffix system method. Remember that. This is all the stuff that we've done so far for monatomic ions. And then for polyatomic ions, which are ions composed of more than one atom, you'll remember, we have all this list that we need to memorize. And remember, we learned a special way to know which one we're talking about with the ite and ate endings. Remember that the ite ending we use for the polyatomic ion with fewer oxygens, and the ate ending we use for the ion with exactly one more oxygen. Remember, it's very important that we understand that these ite and ate endings tell us nothing about the number, about how many oxygens. Like I can't tell if you don't have sulfite, for example, memorized, you can't know how many oxygens are in sulfite, right? All you can know is that sulfate, the ate ending, has exactly one more oxygen than the sulfite ending, right? Okay, so that, and then we had these four how many are there here? 3, 4. We have 4 that have the random names that don't really follow that don't follow the ite and ate rules. And then we have the chlorine exception, which is that foursome here of chlorine-related polyatomic ions. Okay, so that's what we've gone over so far in 9.1, and now we're going to go over the 3 different homework assignments related to 9.1, and you need to be taking notes and doing corrections on your 9.1 homeworks as we're doing this. So we are starting with the monatomic ion naming homework. This is from Tuesday, 30th of March. And so if you got any of these wrong, you need to be correcting them in red ink on your paper, or red on the document, Google Doc that you're doing this on. Alright, so the first part said, please write the formula for the following monatomic ions. So we have the bromide ion. Wow, that's super thick. There we go. Bromide ion. Then we have the strontium ion. So we're probably going to need to reference our periodic table while we're doing this, or you probably did. I'm not going to do it right now, but you probably needed to. I mean, I do have to look at strontium because that's not a common one, so I think it's in the second group. And it is in the second group. So strontium is Sr2+. Rubidium is in the first group, so it's Rb+. Phosphide. So this can be, I hope I tricked some of you. This can be confusing, right? Because, well, it wasn't confusing when you were doing this homework, but now we had phosphide. That was the only one I gave you, but we also now have phosphite with an ITE and phosphate with an ATE ending, right? So be sure that you really pay attention when I give you nitrite, nitride, nitrate, or phosphide, phosphate. Same with sulfur, sulfide, sulfite. So be careful. Be sure you really pay attention to those ones. So phosphide 3 minus. Then we have the aluminum ion, aluminum Al3 plus, selenide ion. And if you don't remember, a good way to remember, I guess, which side of the periodic table this is on, or whether it's going to be a negative or a positive ion, is if it has an "ide" ending. Remember that the "ide" endings are going to be negative, and if we say just the name of an element and then ion, those are going to be our positive endings. So selenide ion is in the 6th group, so it forms a 2 minus ion. Arsenide ion is also, no, it's in the 5th group, As, and it forms a 3 minus. What's next? Iodide is a halogen. Radium ion is at the second group, Ra2 plus. And then the nitride ion is 3 minus. Alright, so there's your answers for those ones. Pretty simple. Then the second part of this homework said, please write the name for the following monatomic ions. So I don't know why there's a minus there. There shouldn't be a minus there. This is the lithium ion. This is the sulfide ion. This is the boron ion. The bromide ion. The calcium ion. Francium. Francium ion. I always spell this one. Gallium. 2 L's or 1 L? 2 L's. Gallium ion. Oxide ion. Fluoride ion. And the antimony ion. Alright, there we go. Those are our answers for the homework from Tuesday. Then we have our 9.1 polyatomic ion naming homework. So in this one, we need to write the formula for each of the following polyatomic ions. And I said this is the list of ions that you'll need to know for the pop quiz. So all of these, this is the completed list. These 19 are the ones that you need to know. So first we have nitrite, which is NO2 minus. If nitrite has 2 oxygens, then nitrate must have 3, so that is NO3 minus. So the minus, the charge is never going to change. It's just going to be the number of oxygens. So we have sulfite, SO3 2 minus, and sulfate, which has 1 more oxygen, 2 minus. Then phosphite, PO3, and it's 3 minus. And phosphate, which has 1 more oxygen, but the same charge. Then we have cyanide, Cn minus, hydroxide, OH minus, carbonate, which is CO3, 2 minus. Then we have ammonium, which is NH4 plus. Then we have our chlorite series, those 4 chlorites. We have hypochlorite first, which is Cl. Oh, that doesn't look good. ClO, just 1 minus. Then we have chlorite, ClO2 minus, chlorate, ClO3 minus, and perchlorate, ClO4 minus. So see, for this one, this is easy. All you have to memorize is hypochlorite, and then you know chlorite, chlorate, and perchlorate, right? Because you just need to know this one, and then you can figure out the rest from there. Okay, then we have hydrogen sulfite, which, again, this is, we're just, going to add a hydrogen, and it's the same thing. That's too far apart. SO3. But now that we're adding a hydrogen, which is, we're going to learn, is also called just a proton. Hydrogen is a proton. Blowing your mind, right? So this makes the charge just 1 minus instead of 2 minuses. Okay? And then we have, did I write the same thing twice? I think I meant, is hydrogen sulfate on our list? I definitely meant sulfate. Sulfate. So this would be HSO4 minus. Then we have hydrogen phosphate, which is HPO4 2 minus. And then we have dihydrogen phosphate, which is H2, di means 2, PO4 minus. And then we have hydrogen carbonate, which is carbonate, but now with a hydrogen and one more charge. All right, so there we go. That was it for that home. Oh, no, there's more questions over here. Just kidding. All right, so the ite ending tells us that there's a polyatomic ion that has a pair that has exactly one more oxygen than it. So there's an ite and 8 pair, and the ite ending has exactly one less oxygen than the polyatomic ion with the 8 ending. Then it says, number 2, write a chemical reaction showing how hydrogen and carbonate combine to form hydrogen carbonate. Well, we would have hydrogen, and hydrogen has, we don't have to do this, we'll just do a plus. Hydrogen has a plus. And then we have carbonate, which is CO3 2 minus. And then they combine, and when we do that, we have HCO3, now just 1 minus. That's all you had to do for that. Write the name using the Stock system for each of the following monatomic ions. Okay, so remember that the Stock system is the easier naming system for the monatomic ion, the metal monatomic ions. So Cr is chromium. And remember, we stick the parentheses right on the end of the M. There's no space between it. And we do a Roman numeral of the charge on that ion. So this is the chromium 3 ion. Hg is mercury. So we write mercury. And this is just 1. And this is ion. And then Pb is lead. So we have the lead 2 ion. Very simple. So there should be a space here between all of the, that doesn't look like a space at the end, but you get the point. There should be a space between the parenthesis and ion, but there should not be a space between these two words, or between lead and the parenthesis right here. There's no space here. Be sure you understand that and do that, because you'll lose points for it. Okay, then it says write the name using the suffix system method for each of the following ions. Okay, remember, you only need to know iron and copper, I said. I think, let me verify the suffix system. Yeah, I said you need to know iron and copper. So remember, the OUS ending is the lower ionic charge, and the ic ending is the higher ionic charge. So, for example, I gave you the example right there. So you need to know that iron, what you need to know for this, to remember this, you need to know that iron has 2 ions. It has a 2 plus ion, and it has a 3 plus ion. So when we do that, we know that this is the ferrous, whoops. But in this situation, you wouldn't even need to know that it has 2 ions. Or excuse me, that it has the charges on the ions. Iron obviously has 2 ions, but you don't need to know the charges because they're given to you right here. So if you see them, if you are given both of them, then the one with the lower charge, the 2 plus charge here, is the ferrous, and the one with the larger charge is the ferric ion. I don't know why I wrote ions down here, but anyway, whoops. Okay, then we have the cuprous, because it has the lower charge ion, and we have the cupric ion because it has the higher charge. All right, fill in the blanks. Lead forms 2 ions, the 2 plus plumbous ion and the 4 plus, which would be, if this is OUS, plumbous, this would be the plumbic ion, right? Then it says chlorate has blank more oxygens than chlorite. Well, we don't even need to go look at our list because we know that 8 and ite, they tell us that chlorate has exactly 1 more oxygen than chlorite. the tin 3 ion has lost blank electrons, whereas the tin 2 ion has lost blank electrons. So the tin 3 ion, SN3+, loses 3 electrons. The SN2+ ion loses 2 electrons. Right? That's what gives it its 2+ charge. Okay. Now on to the review questions. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this homework that we just did, that one was from, this is Wednesdays. This is Tuesdays. And then this one is Thursdays, and I swear there are still some of you that didn't do this assignment, which is hilarious to me. So you get zeros if you didn't do it. No redos, because that's ridiculous. You had yesterday and last week, or 2 weeks ago. Anyway, so this one's from Thursday. These are the review questions. It says, how can you determine the charge of metal cations and of non-metal cations? Metal anions. You can determine the charge by knowing the group. Right? If we look at the periodic table, I look at the group 2, all of those in group 2, beryllium, magnesium, etc., all of those in group 2 are going to have a 2+ charge. If I look at non-metal anions, I look over at group 6. Remember group 6, they all have a -2 charge because they only need to gain 2 electrons to make it to the noble gas configuration. If you gain 2 electrons, you get 2 minuses. Therefore, all of them in group 6 have a -2. So you know the charge of these different ions by knowing the group in which the ion exists. Number 2 says, what are the similarities and differences between polyatomic ions and monatomic ions? Well, they're both ions. For one, they both carry a charge. The difference between the two is that polyatomic ions have more than one type of atom, whereas monatomic ions have only one type. Alright, what are the charges on the ions of the following groups? Group 1A is going to be +1. Group 3A is going to be +3. Group 5A is nitrogen, is nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. That's going to be -3. And group 7A is going to be -1. Give the expected charge of the ions of the following elements. The expected charge of the ions. Okay, so nitrogen is going to be N3-. Strontium, remember, was in group 2. Group 2. So it's SR2+. I'm going to make this bigger. Lithium is in group 1, Li+. Oxygen is group 6, so it's O2-. Cesium, CS, group 1. Yes, group 1. I always forget that one. Aluminum, group 3, so it's Al3+. Calcium, group 2, Ca2+. Iodine, group 7, so it's I-. And phosphorus is group 5, so it's 3-. All right, we're on 4, 5. Okay, write the symbol for the ion of each element. So we're just going to write the symbol. That's it? Write the symbol for the ion of each element. Classify the ion as an anion. Oh. Well, whatever. I'm going to write just the ion. Classify it as an anion or a cation and name it. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is going to be the potassium ion, K+. It's a cation because it's positive, and it's the potassium ion, like I just said. Oxygen, O2-, is an anion. It's called the oxide. Oxide ion. Bromine, Br-, anion. Bromide ion. Tin with 2 electrons lost is SN2+, and we'll just call this the tin. If you don't have to know the stock or the suffix, the suffix endings for this, so we just know it as the tin 2 ion. Beryllium, Be2 plus, cation. Oh, I forgot to say that tin is a cation. And it's called, beryllium is called beryllium ion. Alright, then we have cobalt, and it is going to lose 3 electrons, so we have CO3 plus. This is a cation, and it's called the cobalt 3 ion. Alright, we have this one, and then we're done. Write the symbol or formula, including charge, or the name for each of the following. So if you're given the formula or the symbol, you need to write the name. So in this example, this is the ammonium, and spelling will count for sure. So ammonium ion, spelling will count on the quiz, I mean. So you should know how to spell these things. Chromium 2 ion. Well, chromium is Cr, and we have a 2 plus. CO3 2 minus is carbonate. Nitrite is NO2 minus. This is the chloride ion. ClO minus is the hypochlorite ion. We have the ferric ion. So this is where you need to know that there are 2 different iron ions. They are Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus. We know that the ic ending goes to the higher of the 2, so that would be Fe3 plus. Then we have hydrogen phosphate, the boron ion, hydrogen sulfite, SO3 minus, and then Cu plus. Remember that copper has two different ions that it forms. It forms a Cu plus and Cu2 plus. So you could either name this the cuprous ion, or you could name it the copper 1 ion. Nitride. See, this is where it can get confusing. Am I talking about which nitrogen containing ion am I talking about? I'm talking about N3 minus. Magnesium ion is Mg2 plus. This is sulfate. Phosphide is P3 minus, not phosphite. Then we have ferrous. Ferrous is Fe2 plus. This is phosphite. Oxide is O2 minus. And finally we have nitrate, which is NO3 minus. There we go. That is it. Alright, so this is very similar. These are all very similar to questions you'll see on your Chapter 9 quiz. If you needed to make corrections while we were doing this, and then go submit them right now. We're done. We're done with today's lesson. What you need to do today, if you are struggling and you did not finish your homework corrections, you need to complete them by the end of this period. You also need to submit your lecture notes by the end of this period, your Chapter 9.1 lecture notes. So those need to be handed in today as well. Also due today, if you didn't do it, you should work on that for the rest of the period, is your 9.2 notes, your 9.2 reading notes. And tomorrow we will start on 9.2 lecture. I would start it today, but by the time you finish doing all this stuff and getting everything submitted, there's not going to be enough time to do anything. So get everything submitted. There's absolutely no reason, because you have 15 minutes left still at least. There's absolutely no reason that you should not have these things submitted by the end of this period. If they're late, you'll get they're late. I'm going to give you a 0 if they're not submitted by the end of this period. All right, so you have 15 minutes. Do that. If your lecture notes aren't submitted by the end of this period, they're also a 0. Be sure that you get these 2 assignments in submitted both on today's Google Classroom post. Please let me know if you have any questions, and tomorrow we'll start on 9.2. Thank you. Have a good day.